Our guest today is Aravind Srinivas, a former research scientist at OpenAI. He co-founded Perplexity AI in 2022 with the goal of reshaping how we search the web. His new approach has already stirred up controversy among online publishers, but Arvind insists his focus is on creating a better way for people to access knowledge. Not just a search engine, but what he calls an answer engine. Hi, Arvind. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here, Bilal.
How do you describe how Perplexity is different than, say, a traditional search engine or even some of these chatbots like ChatGPT or Claude?
Yeah, let me break that question into two parts.
Sure.
How is Perplexity different from Google? I think it's very easy to answer that. In Google, you type in keywords, you type in one or two words, usually, like Paris Hilton age, or you type in like NBA and you get the score. But you can type whatever you want, like nothing stops you, but Google, the product will work best when you type in keywords. It's fundamentally a link engine that gives you like the relevant links for whatever you ask. In Perplexity, you can actually come and ask like 10-word questions. You can ask stuff like, what is the latest and greatest about the GPT-01 model that got released today? Or like, what is the latest about the 3-fold phone that Huawei released? Or if you're doing your research on like, okay, like, should I really buy NVIDIA? What's going on? Could you pull up the latest earnings call and like tell me what is the investor sentiment right now? Who are the competitors to NVIDIA? What exactly are the different technologies that are being built? It should help you like figure out those things that Google's not going to help you. Instead, Google's going to give you a link to the blog post and you have to read it and come to your conclusions yourself, right? So that's the difference from Google. Now, the difference from Claude and ChatGPT, the difference from Claude is very clear. Like Claude does not have any internet access. Claude is a model, very good at reasoning to compress some of the knowledge on the internet into the model. So you can use it as a great brainstorming partner. I use Claude when I'm like going to an interview and interviewing for a role that I have like very little experience hiring for. But it's not going to be useful for like asking stuff about like when is the presidential debate? Or like, can you summarize what happened in the debate? It's not going to have knowledge of those events.
So you can't ask it timely, current events, essentially.
Correct. Even past events where you really care about the accuracy. You cannot ask like, what was NVIDIA's revenue in the 2022 Q1 or something like that. Or you cannot ask like, how much funding did OpenAI raise so far? Like these are all stuff that's already out there on the internet. It might still give you numbers, but you can't really trust. Like, what if it got it wrong? Where is the source? Where is the verification? Like, what if I actually want to go and fact check what the AI said? So that's the weakness of Claude. Now, ChatGPT is a little different. It does have internet access. They did do the browsing thing. So then what's the difference between ChatGPT and Perplexity? I think the nuance there is that it doesn't always browse in ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I posted this example recently of like, how many Grand Slams has Yannick Sinner won? And it said he has not won any slam. But it also prefaced it by saying, as of my knowledge, with September 2024. So it does try to do as live as possible. So I don't even know if it browsed the web or not for this query. It's not always clear what queries related to live event or something happened in the past. And so that's why like people still use Perplexity when they already know ahead of time they want accuracy and facts and citations and so like all that, which ChatGPT doesn't do reliably. And I think like it's very difficult to do one thing properly. Like for Perplexity, if we just wanted to be, as good as Google on everything Google does, it's a losing battle. They've perfected that game for like 25 years. That's why we're trying to like change the game. Hey, like, Google, like, great, you're the king of links, and I want to be the king of answers. Let's play that game.
Why are search engines so vital to the internet?
We all need knowledge every day. We all want to make sense of things, right? Like that's a fundamental human need. People started with K-walls, like scrolls, manuscripts, and then the printing press arrived, and that made knowledge dissemination a lot more easier. So basically, as knowledge started getting distributed more and more widely, as the marginal cost of distribution went to zero, there's basically an infinite amount of knowledge out there. But that also means someone has to do the work of making the job of finding it easy for you, right? And allowing you to digest all the information relevant to what you want in the most easy, like friendly, user-friendly way. In fact, if you in the late 90s, there used to be a product called Ask Jeeves.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And that did not work because it was too early to build a question answering engine using the technology that existed back then. At that time, nobody even thought search was important. They all thought the internet was going to be a portal, and Yahoo's already cracked it.
Before we get into that, I do want to ask you, if you have to answer the question of like, what is the current state of the internet and what do you not like about it?
I think the current state of the internet is there's a lot of like low quality content, obviously, right? There's a lot of confusion, of course. There's a lot of like misinformation. And so like that valuable content that exists in like 1 or 2% of the internet is even harder to find now. You have to scroll, you have to sift. Google realized that like as more and more data gets created on the internet, the need for search also exponentially increases. So Google identified a great hack called the 10 blue links. And then the internet kept on growing to the extent where 10 blue links was no longer the best format for consuming information. That's why people got frustrated with Google search. They chose to build a business model around link clicks. So it's very hard for them to change the UI. Despite that, they have attempted to do it through like these one boxes and answers, extracted answers and things like that. But it's still pretty difficult for them to blend everything into one single UI. And now the information is so vast, so complex, and like the world is also getting more entropic. Like the amount of craziness and randomness in the world has obviously exploded. So that just means the need to ask questions is increasing. The other thing is each website has a ton of ads in them, pop-ups, banners, and the moment like you're done with all, shutting them down and actually like trying to read, the stuff that you really want is hidden somewhere in the third or fourth paragraph, right? And that's what we are trying to change.
Let me ask you to that point, if I flip that around and ask you, what does the ideal internet look like to you? And how does Perplexity work towards that ideal internet?
I think the ideal internet is where like there's a thriving ecosystem of like good content creation, but more focused on content and adding value rather than like trying to get link click traffic.
Elaborate on that. It's a nuanced point.
Look, I mean, like clickbaits is like a term, right? Like, why is that? Because you want people to click, you want people to get, you want traffic, you want referrals, you want like
attention.
And you're not actually focusing on like adding new knowledge to the internet. If you added new knowledge to the internet, it's going to be possible for actually delivering value to the user. And the way you get the knowledge discovered to people is through like their questions, not keywords anymore. Wrote on your site is like actually pretty useful to be able to answer that. Then you're getting attributed for it, and like your content is part of the answer, and people derive value from it, and people might want to even dig deeper into what you wrote and might come actually visit you and like learn more. And it's like a way higher intent in terms of like the reason for visiting your site. And also this makes people ask even more questions. I have a pretty high conviction that it's not taking search traffic away from Google that will work. If that was true, then Microsoft Bing should have succeeded by now. The amount of money they've spent on this,
Very
right?
true.
I think it's more that the fundamental consumer behavior of asking questions is an increasing trend. The fundamental consumer behavior of typing in one word to get to a site is a saturated trend. It's over. And interestingly, it's possible suddenly, like after all these 2.5 decades, to do what Ask Jeeves originally wanted to do, because you have the technology today in the form of large language models, which have been like a fantastic invention. And we were at the right place at the right time to identify this core need. So that became Perplexity.
All right, listeners, real quick, I want to give you a better idea of what using Perplexity is actually like, especially compared to Google. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and type into Perplexity AI. I'm going to ask it, who is Aravind Srinivas? So instead of a list of blue links of possibly relevant websites, it's giving this structured layout, almost like a Wikipedia page synthesized on demand with citations to all the websites. And then at the bottom, it gives you related searches. There's a background section, education, professional experience, with different bullet points summarizing all of these different web pages, all distilled into a single answer.
the need to ask questions like was always there, but people didn't have that power. So once they started getting used to that habit has just been increasing worldwide. Like majority of the world doesn't even know that they can go somewhere and ask questions and get answers. And that trend, that consumer behavior is not all going to happen on Google. Maybe some of it will still happen on Google. And so that's where the opportunity lies for a new player.